Alright, what is going on, everyone, and welcome to my Sorcerer build V4. So, this one is a more complete version of the previous ones, and something that I've been using a lot recently. So, this is going to be more of a PvE build, where it's more focused on, like, trials and dungeons, whereas if you're looking for PvP, I might make a video in the future, but this is not it. So, if you're looking for, like, a high DPS character that's a Sorcerer, this one's for you. So first of all, we're going to be going over all the gear, champion points. I'll try to make some recommendations for other gear you may want to look for that if you can't get certain things. I'll look for or list some craftable ones and some easy to farm ones that aren't from trials. And then of course I'll go over all the skills and everything else that I use. So if you want a too long didn't read or watch in this case version, pretty much 5 Vicious Ophidian, 5 Red Mountain, and 2 Veladreth. As for your bow, I do have a Maelstrom, which I know is not easy to get, so anything works. You could replace some, like, one, I don't know, something else. Like, have a 4-piece on your armor, and then one. But, yeah. So first of all, let's start off with the easy things. We're going to be having 9 and 55 in here. That's just how it works for me. Honestly, ideally, 64 and 0, or 64 in the stamina is the best way to have maximum DPS. But for what I do, and I'll just use a potion just so we can see total numbers. You can honestly get by with about 18,000 health. 17,000 is cutting it close, but you can do it. So just to honestly make sure I don't get one-shotted by most things, I stay about at under 20,000. Honestly, I think I could lower it a little bit more into the 19,000s and be fine, but I just like to be safe and give me that extra room to heal up or something in case I need it. So that's why I have this. My Mundus Stone is the Thief. Most people will argue the Shadow versus the Thief. I personally use Thief because of my build, and Thief gives you increased critical strike chance, while Shadow gives you more damage. So honestly, I'd rather have a higher crit chance. It slightly does more if things crit, but Shadow will give you overall damage with crit. So it's really up to you. I just chose this one because of my skill build. Alright, so the easy part is now over. Now the gear. We have, once again, 5 Vicious Ophidian, 5 Red Mountain, 2 Veladreth, and I'll explain how I use this. So, the Red Mountain pieces I do have are the gloves, belt, and boots, I guess, and then 2 weapons. Now, I understand if you are on the PC North American server, the daggers and sharpened are very expensive. You could farm it in Stonefalls pretty much from any bosses. So in a rotation that I would do, if we go to Stonefalls, is you just start from like right to left. What you would do is go here or port to here, and then go kill the boss over here. After that, you go over here to the Ashen Road, and then you go to the shrine over here, and then move upwards, and then go left, right, and then over here, and then finally finish up with the Shipwreck Stand. This is the best way to farm the Red Mountain pieces, along with treasure maps and all that stuff. So that's how you could get it if you don't want to buy it. And then the Vicious Ophidian pieces. Now, I don't have mine completely optimized because mine aren't all gold Vicious Ophidian pieces. I do have some other ones that armor pieces, but they aren't in divines. I do have the jewelry of it, and I know this one is blue because honestly I haven't been doing vet trials much lately, just because getting a group together is probably one of the most painful things to do, and unless you're in like a raid guild, then it's not exactly easy. So I just figured that I'll just do it in normal, get a ring, and we'll be fine. Honestly, between purple and blue, the main difference is that the critical or the piece bonus will be down by like 8 critical for each, and then you lose like 2 weapon damage, and you lose 2 stamina or 20 stamina. So ideally, it's not a big deal if you could pair it with something else like a better set. The reason why I use Red Mountain is simply because of the 5-piece bonus, and obviously the 2, 3, 4 do help because it increases everything else that you would use as a stamina build. But the 5-piece, it does very good or does very well in like bursting and just overall for short bursts of damage. And it does scale off crit, so it's not just magic, so that's always good. And then of course Veladreth. Now Veladreth comes from Cradle of Shadows. I'm sure a lot of you guys already know this, but it's not exactly one of the easiest dungeons to do. So a replacement you could use for that is the Krog set. Now this one you can get from the Fungal Grotto dungeon. I think it's Fungal Grotto 1. And yeah, hopefully look for something in that place. Now, you may be looking at the 2 sets and wonder, why should I use this one? It's mostly because the 1-piece effect for the Krog adds physical penetration, which is essentially having an additional sharpened weapon. And if you're doing a lot of either solo or small dungeons, most likely it'll help you break the penetration cap for PvE enemies. So that's why it's pretty good. Otherwise, a 2-piece, it's good to have, but mostly having 1 is ideal. But if you want maximum and you can't get Veladreth, Krog is also a very good set. Some would even say that it does more DPS. I honestly think it's better for single target, or Krog is at least, and then Veladreth is better for like dungeons where you have to kill mobs of enemies and lots of trash. So overall, up to you, and they're both really good sets. So the one thing you guys may be wondering is, how do you get Vicious Ophidian or the Vicious Serpent set? You get it from pretty much any trial. I'm not sure about Maw of Lorcage, but I think it still has a drop. But for the main 3 trials like Sanctum, AA, and Hellra, it does drop it. So what can you replace that with if you can't get it? You could always use Twiceborn Star, Spriggans, or like Night Mother's Gaze. That also works. Twiceborn Star would probably be higher DPS, and Spriggans would probably be good for, I don't know, like Maelstrom Arena or small dungeons where you may or may not break the physical penetration cap, but it is very good. And then Night Mother's Gaze is more of a group thingy where it does the same thing as Spriggans essentially, but a little bit less, and it affects the group because it breaks the mob or the enemy penetration. So your teammates can also do it, but this one, Spriggan, is more for self, which it increases a little bit more. So that's also a pretty good set. Now, I'm going to get my banker out real quick so show you something.
How can I help you?
Twiceborn Star. Twiceborn Star, this is what it does. It increases pretty much all your resources, and you can have 2 Mundus Stones at once. So if you have Thief and Shadow, that's ideal. And honestly, I think Twiceborn Star is slightly better than Red Mountain in terms of overall damage in like trial groups, but essentially you have to be buffed with pretty much everything from every class to make it worth it. Otherwise, Red Mountain is good for more solo things. Also, if you're too lazy to get your second Mundus Stone every time you switch out gear, then Red Mountain is also pretty good. So other replacements, if you are like newer to the game and don't have the time to farm, agility pieces you could get for the jewelry. Technically you can get weapons and stuff as well, but ideally jewelry for, let's see, I think I might still have it actually in my bank. Agility. So yeah, this is what the agility does. It only has a 3-piece of bonus, but you would want it on your jewelry as well, so like necklace and 2 rings. And it gives you weapon damage and stamina, so that's always good. And you can get it from doing random normal dungeons. So you can just do it, and then your Undaunted reward, it could be a jewelry ring or agility ring. So yeah, ideally, Vicious Ophidian is what you want to be going for. Veladreth or Krog is also good. And then as for your third set, like either Red Mountain, you could always swap that out with Spriggans or Night Mother's Gaze, Twiceborn Star, whatever works for you. And then the weapons, how you build it is up to you. It's just as long as you have a monster set and 2 sets, or like 2 sets and a monster 2-piece. That's how you do it. Now, if you do that, your back bar weapon is probably going to be set where you don't get an effect. So generally, late game, you can go for the Maelstrom Bow or the Master Bow, which is from Dragonstar, or Maelstrom, obviously. Now, ideally, your trait you want would be sharpened pretty much for everything. But I try to run Maelstrom at least once a day, and RNG does not want to give me a sharpened bow, so there's nothing really I can do about it, except just keep doing it and grinding until I get it. But Infused is the best thing I got right now, so I'll take it. And then the way I have my build is, this is something else you shouldn't really worry about until late game if you do a lot of dungeons. Simply because you're going to be looking at your Undaunted. So this passive gives you 2% of max health, stamina, and magic based on the armor you wear. So if you wore 7 pieces of medium, for example, you would only get 2%. Whereas I have 2 heavy pieces right here. So I'll get 4%. So essentially 5 medium, 2 heavy. Technically, the best one would be like 6 and or 5, 1, 1, 5 medium, 1 light, 1 heavy. But I honestly like the heavy pieces just because of the extra armor. So overall, it's good. But if I could get like a 6 medium Divines Veladrith piece, that's also the RNG thing I have to get eventually. That also works out. So yeah, that's been the armor build. As for skills, most of this stuff has stayed the same. I do switch out a few things every now and then. I'll try to go over some replacements in case you don't PvP at all. So let's start off with our 1 through 5, then ultimate. So this is our dual wield bar, our main DPS bar. We're going to be here. Now we have Steel Tornado since it's our only, or it's one of our AoE clears that does a lot of damage. It's kind of a small execute ability, and it does quite a lot of damage. So we have this one. Now you could replace Steel Tornadoes with the ability right here. The other morph of Blood Craze is Rending Slashes. So the difference between the morphs are, the one I have is you get healed a little bit every time you do damage. Rending Slashes, essentially you just do more damage with no heals. So depending on your playstyle, what works for you, both morphs are very solid. But if you're looking for top DPS, you're going to want the other morph. If you want more survivability, Blood Craze is good. Rapid Strikes, this is going to be your main ability. Now, you're going to be using this one as your main single target dot, apparently. And, yeah. Rapid Strikes. Very good. Now, 3, our Razor Caltrops, is not something that everyone is going to have because not everyone enjoys PvPing, such as myself. I got it to rank 6 just to get Caltrops, and I really don't PvP that much. So, if you don't have it, another good replacement is the Rearming Trap. Now, you could use the Rearming Trap in place of this. Essentially, what it does is when you drop a trap down and it triggers, your enemies take dot damage from the trap, and your critical damage is increased by 12%. So, it increases more damage overall. Very good. But if you're doing small dungeons, having a lot of AoE slows is pretty good for that. Next, we have Hurricane. This is a very important skill. Pretty much every sorcerer uses it, regardless of if you are magic or stam. If you're magic, obviously, I think you just get the other morph of it. So, yeah, Hurricane. It increases your resistances, and it does a small damage over time when enemies are standing in your circle. And then your next one is Bound to Ramets. I do believe this is right here. So what this is, it's like an active self-cast. It's not a passive, like some people may believe. You're going to have to keep it on both bars. Otherwise, if you only have one and then bar swap, then you'll lose the effect. So you're going to have to keep this on. Essentially what it looks like is when you hit your 5. I know some people are on console. You may not be able to see if this is active. The way you notice is you see a little or a glowing purple thing. That's how you know it's active. So what it does is increase your heavy attack damage by 11% and your max stamina. It also gives you resistances. That's why it's good. is pretty much just free resources and more damage. So, our back bar is our dot bar and bow bar. So first of all, on 1 we have our poison injection. Now, people argue whether to get this morph or the other morph. Now, the difference between both morphs is poison injection deals additional damage and it's an execute dot. So, like, they'll be taking more poison damage over time. The other morph of it is a ranged interrupt. So, if your enemy is, like, casting a spell, you can interrupt it. But it does slightly less damage. And, yeah. So, for max DPS, poison injection is the way to go. For interrupts, the other one is the thing. And 2, we have Endless Hail, because Endless Hail just, if your enemy is standing in the circle like that, they just keep taking damage over time. Also, it works very well with your Maelstrom Bow, because when you do volley, it triggers this effect, and you get more weapon damage, and increases the tick. So, like, every 0.5 seconds for whatever you take, they take more damage, and it increases the tick damage over time. So I believe the Endless Hail is the better morph because it lasts longer. And the other morph, I do believe it just does more damage over like 6 seconds or something like that. Whereas Endless Hail is 10 seconds. So with the Maelstrom Bow, you want the effect to last longer so you do more damage. And then if you don't have a Maelstrom Bow, honestly, either morph is fine. But if you want to just have less things to cast every like 20 seconds, Endless might be better. Now, our 3 is Vigor. Once again, not a skill that everyone might have. Essentially, it's your heal, and it has a huge radius for your team as well. So if you don't have this, another self-heal would be under the Dark Magic, Dark Deal. Now, this essentially is a self-heal only. You trade magic for health and stamina. So if you need this one, this is also just one that's almost like right there, and everyone can get it as a sorcerer. So if you don't have Vigor, Dark Deal also works fine. And yeah. So our next one is Critical Surge, and this one is under the Storm Calling. Essentially, this is you're gonna be your self heals for the most part if you don't have healing, but it's kind of like emergency. So every time you do a crit or you crit damage over anything, you heal yourself. This effect can occur every 1 second, and it makes things very good. So you're gonna want to have this up at all times. And once again, we went over here. So let's go over our ultimates now, because I think I've been doing a lot of testing to see which ones are better. I do switch regularly. Flawless Dawnbreaker, it increases your weapon damage by 5% as long as you have it slotted. So I think this is slightly better for overall damage. And if you don't have this, you're most likely going to have Rend, or the ultimate for here. This is the morphed version. Anyway, it does a lot of damage. So essentially, what it does is you shoot out a cross or like an X right in front of you in a small radius, and it pretty much hits everything in the path. And it deals dot damage and heals you for everything. So like if you hit 4 targets, it does like, oh no, let's take the tooltip for example, 58,000 damage over 6 seconds, and then healing you for every single tick. So essentially, you're pretty much unkillable. If you just have so many dots going off at once, you're going to be instant healing overall. So whether you use Rend or Dawnbreaker, it doesn't really matter. If you want overall higher damage, I think Dawnbreaker is slightly better. If you want huge burst damage for like dueling or like, I don't know, PvP, I do believe Rend is slightly better. But ultimately, it's up to you. Our back bar doesn't really matter. I kind of switch it out between Meteor and Dawnbreaker as well. Just because of the Dawnbreaker gives you the extra 5%, and Shooting Star is kind of just like a stun ability that I use for like trials and stuff. But ultimately, I switch it out. So if you don't have Meteor, don't worry about it. You could always use Dawnbreaker. If you don't have Dawnbreaker, don't worry about that either. You could use Overload. Now, this one is not really for damage as a stam character, but it gives you a third bar, so that's interesting. If you don't have that, I don't know, really, I don't know what you're doing at this point if you don't have any ultimates. Negate is like the last resort, but it's not completely terrible. So yeah, those are the skills I used. Now let's go into the champion points. Now before I go into the champion points, I want you to know that my build is kind of spec'd out for dungeons and trials, not like something weird. So what you have might be good. Mine is definitely not like min-max best. It's just what I use that helps me. Now let's start with the blue tree because this is the most important one. The red and the green are kind of, everyone's just going to have very similar ones regardless of who you watch or who you talk to. So, rapid strikes is considered a dot. I learned that very recently because it doesn't tell you. It should be a channel. Channel does not equal dot, and dot means damage over time. So, Mighty. This is going to increase your overall physical, poison, disease damage. So you kind of want to max this out. Some people leave it at 89 to 90. I just want to max mine out. Give me the overall damage. And I would suggest maxing it out too. But yeah, after that, Thaumaturge is your second most important skill. Increases the effectiveness of your damage over time effects. So overall, you have a lot of dot effects, and that should increase it. As for these two, regardless of what you do, I don't think it really matters. Having physical penetration is good, but you could take it out if you wanted to and put more into Thaumaturge. Regardless, doesn't really matter. Or you could put it in for precise strikes. And since we are a crit build, having 10% in here is pretty solid. What you do with these 12 points extra, you can put it into either one. It doesn't really matter if you want more damage, or you can just leave it in 12 because I like the physical penetration as well. So if you understand anything, max out Mighty first. This should be a priority, even if you aren't CP capped. This should be priority always, and then branch off to whatever. All right, next on the red tree, we have everything in here, and that's about it. So the way mine is built is mostly because I've been doing Veteran Maelstrom Arena, and I've been figuring out what I die to most of the time, and it's the elemental effects. So I have this spec'd out a little bit higher than here, but overall, you could do whatever you want. And then Thick Skinned, it helps prevent you from dying from extra dodge, which is mostly for the final stage of Maelstrom, and otherwise, I don't really have too many issues dying. But if you are newer and don't have a CP cap, what should you do? Make these evened out. Like, so let's say you have 10 champion points. Put 5 into Hardy, 5 into Elemental Defender. 20, you have 10, 10. And then don't really worry about Thick Skin. Try putting them into Hardy and Elemental Defender first, as that is priority. And then a little bit later, you might branch off and see, oh, I've been dying to more melee characters, or I've been dying to damage more often. So then you could put more into whatever like suits your playstyle, and that's what really, like, that's how I do it. So yeah, overall, until you get to the cap, just start evening them out. You'll be in overall better status. So green tree, I guarantee you everyone has the same thing. If you're stamina, you max this one out because it reduces the cost of spells and abilities. Overall reduction cost is slightly better than stamina recovery. Yeah, so I've always max this one out first, and then secondly, you want to max this one out at 75, just because I got 75, stopped it there just to get the extra passive. This is pretty much irrelevant to anything, so I just kind of wanted to have the passive, and yeah, so having that is good. And then I do have 12 points into Tumbling. It reduces the stamina cost of dodge rolling and breaking free. So essentially, if you're getting stunned and CC'd by pretty much everything, it reduces the cost of it. So that kind of helps out a little bit. But if you don't want that and just want more stamina recovery, that is the way to go. But after 75, you're not going to get the passive for the 10 point in here. So I think having a 4.8% is slightly higher than having, I don't know, another 2% into recovery. So that's why I have it. As you may imagine, you hit the soft cap and then it goes up slower than if you were to start something new. You get almost 5% regardless of that, and then you might get 2% if you started adding more into Mooncalf. So overall, it's not really a huge difference. It's ultimately what you want to do, but this is what works for me. And yeah. So if you got anything from the champion points, blue tree, max out mighty first. Red tree, hardy and elemental defender is top priority. And yeah. So what else have we not covered? We covered the gear, champion points, skills, Mundus stones. Yeah, I guess we'll talk about potions now. Ultimately, using the regular 150 potions is fine. You're going to be okay using it. Don't worry about anything else. However, if you want to like get things done quicker, the essence of weapon power potions are very good for stamina. Increases your weapon damage by 20%. It also increases your critical rating by 2191. So I'll just use a potion for. So take a look at this. Actually, let's go on our dual wield bar since it's higher. There are people who stack weapon damage. You can see some people with like 5,000 weapon damage, and they'll have like what 20% or 40% crit. I'm pretty sure I can beat most people like that because crit actually is very strong. That's why you see a lot of people who have it. So overall, even though you may see 3,200 right now, I can beat people with like 5,000 weapon attack and out damage them for the most part. So we'll use a weapon power potion. Take a look at these stats. Screenshot it real quick. I'll use one. Increases it to 3,700 and priority at 75%. Pretty much you'll be hitting 3 out of 4 rapid strike crits, and it's pretty nuts. So if you want top tier damage around 30, 35k while you're unbuffed by like spell power igneous, then this is the way to go. In trials, you should be hitting around, I don't know, I would say about 50k. And yeah, that's not even with like fully maxed out golden gear, everything. Most of it's golden, yeah. But rings, ultimately, if you're wearing purple, you'll be fine. If you just want like that very slight extra weapon damage, like that one extra, then, I mean, gold is the way to go. But I mean, obviously purple is fine. But yeah, with that said, I also use Essence of Immovability. It's more for like clutch situations, or if I'm doing a dungeon where like there are 8 things trying to stun you at once, I use this one. But I mean, overall, you shouldn't be using this. It's more for like PvP and stuff. But overall, using regular potions is fine. If you want slightly higher weapon damage, the Essence of Weapon Power is also good. And then it's kind of expensive as well. So it's not something you should just burn on cooldown every single second or every 45 seconds. It's something that if you need it for dungeons, cool. If you don't really worry about it. I kind of just use them to get things done faster. So overall, that's pretty much it. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to drop a quick like and let me know what you use. Now, keep in mind, this is not the best setup or not best in slot. I just kind of have things that work for my playstyle. But I am more than willing to help you like try experimenting with other things. So I do test a lot of different gear. And yeah, so honestly, this just works best for me. And what works the best for you might be completely different. So with that said, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys later. And hope you enjoyed this video.